Hello again and welcome. My name is Megan Skidmore, and this is the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here as I attempt to bring the traditionally somewhat taboo topic of doubt and questioning out of the shadows of shame and into the sunlight. Excuse my allergies. I'm a little bit gruffly in my voice today. As a life transitions coach, I work one-on-one with parents of LGBTQ plus kiddos of a conservative faith background. I also work with LGBTQ plus teens. I'm currently in the process of creating a group program specifically for mamas of LGBTQ plus teens. Well, kiddos, not just teens, sorry. As part of this work, I'm conducting interviews that are approximately 30 minutes in length. If you are willing to participate, please send me an email or DM me on Instagram. Welcome to episode 10, which I am calling The Gap. Let me start by saying how much I honor anyone who is on a faith journey that has taken a pivot. It is a misunderstood space at times, and I think a person in that space often gets misjudged. In my experience, this is sacred ground. This is truly hallowed space. And although at times it has been difficult, painfully difficult, I can truthfully say I am grateful for the personal growth I have and continue to experience. I can see God's wisdom in allowing this in my life, as there are things I could not have learned otherwise. Perhaps you have found the same to be true in your experience. When the tenets of one's faith and the realities of your lived experience, your first-hand experience, are in stark contrast, the cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. It can be paralyzing. There have been times that it has been so for me. If that is you, I feel you. I see you. I get you. When I say one's faith, let me elaborate a little. I'm not just talking about one's religion and the beliefs that they have been taught and have internalized, but often this is one's heritage or people or community of belonging. There is a huge identity here. This is often the foundation of how you identify as a person of faith, and these are the lenses through which you view your world. The fear of possibly no longer, quote, belonging, end quote, is very real. As humans, we're communal in nature, and so we not only need it, but we thrive on connection and on belonging. One of the reasons that it has not set well with me that a group of people are not allowed to have a lifelong partner is that I know connection is key to our survival, literally, not just figuratively. I have suffered from depression since my teens. One of the greatest antidotes to depression is human connection. Love, acceptance, belonging, having your people or your person. Lifelong soloness is an enormous ask, in my humble opinion. The thought evokes more than discomfort in me. It evokes a sadness that is really difficult to describe and put into words. I could not do it, and I don't know how anyone can without much, I don't even know the words, difficulty. And truthfully, I have felt this way even before learning I was a mama of an LGBTQ plus kiddo. There, I said it. It is something I have long felt. I honestly didn't set out to talk about this on today's podcast, but there it is. I have said before, and I'll say it again, I make this, meaning whatever I share, I make this a matter of prayer and thoughtfulness and meditation. I don't take it lightly. It's not easy to be vulnerable like this. So a few years ago, when first starting out on this pivot in my faith journey, or expansion, as I like to refer to it now, I remember the strong feeling that I had, I believe divine, I was called to be an advocate. I remember feeling this pull to use what I call my privilege as a white cisgender female to speak up, to be a voice for the marginalized. I think in large part, it was because I realized the viewpoints that I had acquired and I would say internalized of LGBTQ plus folks up to that point in my life were grossly incorrect. I want to share an excerpt with you from the book Faith is Not Blind, written by Bruce C. and Marie K. Hafen, that explains this phenomenon really well. So starting on page 8, we read, "Our experience with real life often introduces a new dimension, a growing awareness of a gap between the real and ideal, between what is and what ought to be. Let's call this distance between where we are and where we want to be the gap." So still reading from Faith is Not Blind. They say, "We first see the gap when we realize that some things about ourselves or about other people are not what we thought they were. For example, at a church university, one might expect to be warm and homey. A brand new student can feel lost and intimidated. Or maybe they brush up against a faculty member, an IAD, or fellow students whose attitudes are different than expected." Continuing on page 9 of this book, we may begin to see human limitations of those who have previously been our heroes, such as parents, church leaders, teachers, and so on. Or perhaps a mission doesn't turn out quite as one had anticipated. Or maybe we suffer a surprise setback with health or come across information that raises questions we don't know how to answer. Such experiences, the Havens say, can produce an unsettling sense of an uncertainty. We may begin to ask questions that haven't occurred to us before. As we grow and increase in our awareness, most do run into uncertainty and opposition. So speaking for myself, I have learned how leaning into uncertainty and the unknown can be a blessing. It's mentally healthy. By leaning into uncertainty, in essence, I am turning the things I don't know back over to the divine. It is the ultimate walk of faith. It requires a deeper level of trust, much more than I thought I had to begin with. That is what this journey has really taught me, how much I really don't know, and that I can be okay with that reality. It actually can be very exciting to ponder on the possibilities. The use of the word "and" has become commonplace in my vocabulary. And is opening an invitation to further light and knowledge, or receipt of divine wisdom. And I believe that this is what starts to fill in what may be missing in, quote, the gap mentioned earlier. For instance, I know I can say, I know our Heavenly Parents love all their children unconditionally and have a plan for them. Or perhaps I can say, our Heavenly Parents created them perfectly, uniquely, with no mistakes, and there is purpose in that. And gives us a way to, and gives way to thoughtful, useful questions. Like, what if what we perceive as a mistake is actually a gift and not a mistake at all? Or another question, what if I or we don't have the full vision or understanding of what God's purpose is? It's interesting to consider questions such as these because they can bring up some ambiguity. So returning to the Hafens, they invite us to, quote, consider ambiguity for a moment. Even the scriptures contain some. For example, the story of Nephi, where he was directed to slay Laban in order to obtain critically important scriptural record. I'm on page 10 of their book. We read, the Savior said, "Do not your alms before men to be seen of them." That's in Matthew 6:1. And he also said, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works." And that's in Matthew 5:16. Another example of some ambiguity is the Lord has said he can't look upon sin with the least degree of allowance. That's found in Doctrine and Covenants 131. Yet elsewhere he said, "Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more." And that's in John 8:11. Continuing, justice is a divine law, as is mercy. They are reconciled by higher doctrine of the Savior's atonement. Life is full of ambiguity. Learning to manage the gap between the ideal and the real is one purpose of the mortal plan, said the Hafens. They then go on to discuss a three-stage model of the stages of faith to help deal with this uncertainty, and I look forward to diving into those in a future episode. If you are struggling with uncertainty or resisting the unknown, the gap, I guess you could say, in your life, let's chat. Your first session is complimentary with no strings attached. Find me at my website, https://meganskidmorecoaching.com. Megan spelled MEAGAN. This is also where you can schedule a free consult, connect with me on social, email me, or access my free resource guide for LGBTQ plus families of conservative faith. It's a 20+ page guide of interactive resources that I have found or used along my own journey. Scroll midway down my website to find it. I'm happy to share that I'm a member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, found at dialoguejournal.com/podcast network. That's dialoguejournal.com podcast network. The Dialogue Podcast Network features shows by Latter-day Saints who wish to bring their faith into dialogue with the larger stream of world religious thought and with human experience as a whole, and to foster artistic and scholarly achievement based on their cultural heritage. Thank you so much for your taking time to join me today. If you resonate with what you hear, please leave me a review and rating on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, God bless.